So what is money? Money is an idea backed by confidence. It's a concept that's often associated with L. Ron Hubbard. So what does it actually mean? Money as an idea. What is that? Imagine you have a piece of paper with a special design on it, like the US dollar or the yen or the euro. They all have a special design on it that makes it really hard to, copy and create fake money. So by itself, it's just a piece of paper. But because everyone around the world agrees that this piece of paper has value, you can use it to buy things. This means that the paper is just nothing more than an idea that people actually believe in. And there are 180 currencies used as legal tender throughout the world, but the US dollar is the best. Backed by confidence, because it's an idea backed by confidence. So the piece of paper, money, only has value because people are confident that other people and businesses will accept it in exchange for goods and services. If everyone suddenly stopped believing that the paper had value, it wouldn't be worth anything anymore. Also, the confidence backing the US dollar is the fact that the US government and the military power backs the currency. The government forces us to pay taxes in their currency, and the dollar was also used to trade oil from all other countries, which was the petrodollar, which is just now starting to change. But the US government literally forced the dollar to become the world reserve currency in this way, and then they force us to pay our taxes in it. They don't let us pay our taxes with other things, cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or gold or silver. You have to pay it in their currency. And so by doing this, the government is able to create this almost monopoly game where they force us to use their money, they force us to pay taxes in their money, they force us essentially to play their game by their rules. And so the secret is you're stuck in their game unless you find a way to get out. And again, you can do gold, you can do silver, you can diversify, and you can buy Bitcoin. There's other things you can do. But as we'll talk about, real estate, I told you, and I'm going to get way more into this, is difficult because you can't sell it if nobody wants to buy it. You can't sell part of it. You have to sell all of it. And it's got property tax, maintenance tax. It's got weather risk, war risk, and we'll continue to go down. Gold and silver, obviously, if I have, for rich people, right, like a rich person, they're not going to bring $1 million in gold or silver or $1 billion in gold or silver, because you have to have a literal military to protect you, or somebody will just kill you and take it all from you. And that's where, as we continue to peel back the layers of like, why is Bitcoin the best? It's because I could have $1 billion in Bitcoin in my head. And I say in my head because I could just remember the password, the seed phrase. And then as soon as I'm able to find a device, access to the internet, I'm able to access my Bitcoin. It could just literally be in my head. So the evolution of money has undergone significant transformations from barter systems where people traded goods directly to the use of precious metals like gold and silver, and then paper currency, fiat money, and now digital currencies. Most of us don't even use paper money. We almost do everything via credit card, wire transfer, Zelle, PayPal, etc. So here's an example. In ancient times, a farmer might trade wheat directly for a blacksmith's tools. That's a barter and a trade. Later, they used gold coins as a common medium of exchange. And today we use paper money and digital transactions through credit cards, banking apps, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, etc. And so things are going more and more and more and more and more digital. And so inevitably, we're going to say, well, where's the world's best place to store my digital savings, my digital property, my digital commodity? And the only thing is Bitcoin. So money and trust. For money to function, people have to trust that its value. This trust is based on the belief that others will accept it in exchange for goods and services. During hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, trust in their currency collapsed. People started using foreign currencies like the US dollar for daily transactions because they could no longer trust the Zimbabwean. Now, by the way, there's Zimbabwe dollars that are $1 trillion. A piece of paper that says $1 trillion. Can you imagine that? Like in America, we've never had to go above $100 because like that would be ridiculous. But like if the purchasing power has gone down a lot, I mean, we really could have like $1,000 bills and above. But in Zimbabwe, their inflation was so bad that they literally have $1 trillion bills. Let that sink in. That's how bad it is. Like I remember when we were going to go to Bali and things cost like $16 million, but it was in their currency. I was like, Jesus. But then my wife was like, oh, it's not really $16 million. It's $75. That's the difference. It's 16 million of their shitty fiat currency for $75 of mine. So the conversion is $75 to 16 million. That's how bad theirs is. And that's simply because of money printing. And it's going to get worse and it's going to get worse. And the US dollar is going to continue to get worse. But like all other places are so bad. And as you'll see, the common thing amongst Bitcoin as of right now, because of lack of education amongst middle-class people, is Bitcoin is for rich people and is for poor people. Poor people because they can't mess around with dollars. Like I'm talking about real poor people, not poor people in America, like Zimbabwe, where like they live on $5 a month. I'm talking about real poverty, not in America. America doesn't really know real poverty. Sure, some people in some little tiny microcosms that you could find do, but I'm talking about like where the whole country is purely impoverished. Like everybody lives on like $1 a week or $1, 25 cents a day. Talk about real poverty. And so those places, those people need Bitcoin because it can actually protect their currency. In some places like Egypt, they wake up. This is recent, by the way. They wake up and their dollar's been devalued by 30% in a day. Imagine if you woke up and your grocery bill was 30% more the next day. Shit, I should have got my groceries yesterday because it went up 30% in a day. Your coffee went up 30% at Starbucks in a day. Your gas bill went up 30% in a day. You're like, oh my God, how am I ever going to make enough money to save enough money to get out of this shithole of a debt spiral? Because my government just wakes up and prints so much money in a day, and they don't tell me that the money that I do have saved in the single day has less purchasing power for my groceries to feed my family. So what are they going to do? They're going to take their money and they're going to go and they're going to buy gold. No, they're not. They're going to get stabbed for it because they live in poverty and people will kill you for a little bit of gold. Okay, so gold's not a good idea. And where are they even going to get it? And how do you verify it? Because gold is gold. Like you don't know if it's real gold. Do you? If I gave you a gold coin, could you delineate between the real gold and the fake gold by looking at it without a technology device or a weigh scale? No, you couldn't. And so average people can't use gold as commerce or silver because how are you actually going to know if it's legitimate or not? And by the way, a little tiny gold coin, 1 ounce is $2,400. I'm talking about poor people. They can't buy gold. And so they're not going to even be using gold. And by the way, they're unbankable. They don't have KYC. They don't have the ability to go and get an application at a bank. Who's going to give a bank to a person who makes $1 a day? Nobody. The fees to open the bank cost more than that. Bitcoin is for the unbanked, the unbankable. Bitcoin is for poor people to be able to put their money and create, as long as they have access to technology. And by the way, there's literal companies out there like AT&T and stuff that are giving phones for free to poor people. And then they're giving like Elon Musk's satellites, his Starlinks, to be the thing that signals down to the phone so poor people can have phones because they know that if they can give poor people access to the internet and phones and education and Bitcoin and banking and Zelle and PayPal, they know that that's going to increase the world because there's billions of people that don't have access to the internet. If you give them a phone with access to the internet for free, the whole world's going to slowly start to change as those people get access to computers, social media, the internet, education, digital banking without a real bank like Wells Fargo and JP Morgan. I'm talking about like PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. So when you give billions of people access for free to something that they don't currently have, it slowly starts to change the trajectory of what they're able to do. And they're able to, some of them are able to escape poverty because of that. And then eventually it obviously feeds back into AT&T making money and Starlink making money. And so there's a feedback. They're not doing that because they're good people. They're doing that because there's a way for these companies to make money. So yeah, Bitcoin's for poor people. And Bitcoin's for rich people. Rich people have so much money that they go, I can't buy any more real estate, or I don't want to buy any more real estate. And there's a bunch of reasons behind that, and we'll get into it. And then I talked about gold and silver and stocks and things like that. And a lot of rich people, they're so over allocated already. They've already been rich. They've already bought everything. So they're like, I need to allocate to something new. And that new thing, as you start to peel back the layers, there's no better place for a rich person to store their value than in something like Bitcoin. So inflation and currency devaluation. Inflation happens when the amount of money in an economy grows faster than the economy's ability to produce goods and services. This devaluation means that each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services over time. Here's an example. Imagine if your allowance was $10 a week and you could buy 10 apples. If inflation hits and the price of apples increases to $2, your $10 now only buys 5 apples. This decreases your purchasing power. So another real world example is in Venezuela, another place that had hyperinflation, which has led to staggering price increases. What could be bought with a Venezuelan bolivar a few years ago now costs hundreds or thousands of times more. So let that sink in. In just a few years, something that cost a couple dollars costs hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars. So that means in just a few years, everything went up hundreds to thousands of times more. By the way, the people's salaries and incomes and working wages stayed the same. So when you really let that sink in, you cannot outwork inflation. You cannot outperform how much the government can fuck you over by printing more money. And that's what's crazy is in America, it's starting to happen. Most small businesses will increase their income maybe 5 to 10% a year, maybe. Maybe that's like actually really good. Most small businesses go out of business because they slowly have a decline. But I'm like putting the benefit of the doubt out there that like most small businesses can have 5 to 10% increase. But the cost of inflation right now is more than that, which is the hurdle rate, the cost of capital, how much you have to make to actually outperform the devaluation of the dollar. Crazy. It's happening in America, and it's happening slowly and slowly, but just like the penny that doubles every day, we're starting to get to the point where it might be 5 years from now, it might be 10 years from now, it might be 20 years from now. And I know there's a big delta between that, but like it only takes another COVID or war where they print another $10 trillion like that. By the way, my house doubled in 6 years. It doubled in 6 years. And a lot of my friends, I have two types of friends. I have friends with 9 to 5 jobs, and I have friends that are super rich. And my friends with 9 to 5 jobs, they can't buy houses now because the house is, by the way, I mean, many of you who have children that are like in their 20s or 30s, you probably know, like if they don't own a home, they're saving for a home, right? That's what most people, the American dream, save for a home. And if I'm saving for a home on an income that only goes up 3%, 4%, 5%, 10% a year, and the house doubles in 6 years, how could I possibly ever catch up? I needed 10 years to save just to get to the house when it was $1 million or 2 million, but it fucking doubled. So now I can, and then worse, they increased the interest rates. So the government just fucks with all of us by increasing interest rates and printing money and increasing interest rates and printing money. And they just pull these two levers. And if you're smart and connected and successful and you've escaped the matrix and you have enough money and you have the right connections, you can actually use those interest rates and the monetary printing to your benefit. But the problem is 99% of people don't know how because they're not educated and they haven't put themselves in a position yet to capitalize on it.